above the world so high, like a diamond in the sky. When the blazing sun is gone, when the nothing shines upon, twinkle, twinkle, little star. How I wonder what you are.
The first playthrough you'll have of this game is claustrophobic. It's tense. It's horrifying, honestly. Isaac is very weak initially, and the plasma cutter is as well. The music and the ambient sound both work together to make the start of the game extremely tense and atmospheric. It came out in 2008 and drew its inspiration from games and movies like Resident Evil 4, BioShock, Alien, and maybe even some classic horror movies, using them very well and to their advantage. Fans of Resi 4 would love this game. I mean, at least I think they would. I thought it was great. It does a good job balancing horror and action, just as Resi 4 did, and progressively becoming more action-packed and anxiety-inducing. You take the role as Isaac Clarke, an engineer on a routine job at the Ishimura to repair its communication devices. But as it becomes apparent very quickly, shit has gone down aboard this ship, and nobody who was originally on board is to be found after your shuttle makes a crash landing on board. Isaac and his crew investigate further, and are ambushed by a group of necromorphs and separated, leaving you for the most part alone for the rest of the game, running here and there to repair things like the engine and an escape pod to get off of the ship, with things taking a turn for the worse very often. The story then unfolds into something deeper, more cynical, and almost corporate scheme-like. And while it works sort of well, it's not all that original, and at times it's pulled off badly with a lack of character development and not too great voice acting every now and then. The game also feels the need to tell you how to kill the necromorphs again, and again, and...
Listen, forget about shooting them in the body. You gotta cut off the limbs, grab a cutter, anything like that. Cut them apart!
Shooting them in the body didn't seem to work. Go for the limbs. Dismember them. That should do the job.
Serve ammo by dismembering enemy limbs.
Isaac feels sort of tanky at first, but you'll get used to that after you run for your life for a few minutes and dismember a few necromorphs. By the end of the game, you might as well be Quick Draw McGraw if he got his arms and face ripped off every now and then. You can stomp, you can walk, you can run, shoot, alt-fire, switch weapons, and even check your inventory. Stasis and kinesis are things as well, allowing you to slow down baddies and grab things out of reach. You can also visit a shop and buy ammo, health, suit upgrades, and new weapons and nodes, which you use to upgrade your rig and weapons, as well as kinesis and your stasis module. The game controls very nicely once you've eased into it, and while the FOV feels odd at first, it helps heighten the atmosphere and feel of claustrophobia, as it makes you feel more vulnerable and limits your view. For the most part, you'll be slaying necromorphs, being slain by bigger necromorphs, scavenging for ammo, nodes, currency, and going through steps A, B, and C to repair this and that, and hopefully get Isaac and his crew off the Ishimura in one piece as the story unfolds organically for the most part, instead of through cutscenes and whatnot.
I know you want to repair the executive shuttle and leave this place, but it's impossible.
I want to set the record straight. By the time this log is heard, my actions will have been...
Your time has come. No need to be frightened. No reason to fight. Many have gone before us, and now
You really didn't think I was just gonna walk away, did you? I can't.
Oh my god!
Graphically, this game holds up to this day. The lighting is fantastic, the models look nice, and the interior to the ship looks great as well, with only a few textures and models looking a bit dated. The main characters all look nice, and Isaac's suit has a nice amount of attention to detail put into it, especially as you upgrade his rig. The necromorphs and tissue all around the Ishimura look grotesque and frightening, and the necromorphs even begin to look more deteriorated as you go through the game as well, which is a nice touch. Space is beautiful and frightening at the same time, and the soundtrack and ambient sound are just to die for. These elements make the game terrifying in its entirety, and just flat out check every box they can. Both the music and ambient sound help to thicken the atmosphere and to make tons of moments super tense as well, keeping you on your toes nearly for the whole time. And even when you catch your breath, they still help to keep the feel unnerving. Zed, is there anything you have to say about this game? Your second playthrough will have a sort of disconnect. Well, it did for me anyways. You start again and you keep everything you had before, unless you don't play New Game Plus, and it just sort of feels different. You aren't exactly worried about what will happen, and the necromorphs don't exactly feel threatening either. You'll spend the second playthrough just tearing through these necromorphs and trying to upgrade your rig and weapons all the way, which can be satisfying, but at the same time steps away from the horror aspect of the game. Sure, it can be tense, but there isn't exactly fear. It's more so action-packed, and while this isn't a horrible thing, it's not a great thing either. While the story unfolds nicely, albeit a few bumps here and there, it is solid, and for the most part original with its concept of necromorphs and the marker until it becomes more of a conspiracy. The developers also fumble with Isaac every now and then, as he seems near emotionless except for when he's being morbidly destroyed by the monstrosities lurking on the ship. The voice acting can sometimes be dry and sort of emotionless, with less urgency pushed than you'd think there would be given the crew's situation, and a lot of what's going on is go here, fix this, then go there. Although the game does a good job of unfolding events organically through gameplay, which is a plus. Isaac feels pretty stiff at first, and the FOV is rough getting used to initially in a third-person game, but I can admit it does add to the atmosphere. The controls can feel wonky at times, and stomping could have been better implemented, like in Dead Space 2, but not too much is wrong here. The stasis can sort of be a pain in the dick every now and then, and the objectives can be repetitive and feel sort of fetch questy. The game does a good job at continuously surprising the player though, which keeps things from feeling stale, and I don't have a single complaint about the audio. The soundtrack is tense, it's chilling, and the ambient sound is superb, lending the game its sense of horror and anxiety. There's not much negative to say about the visuals either, as the game has aged well. The only thing I can really think of are the larger boss enemies' models, and occasionally their textures, but in my opinion, these giant, morbid, horrifying enemies sell the game, and keep things fresh when you get too used to slicing up necromorphs. The audio in space fits great, and the sounds both dying people and necromorphs make are disturbing as well. I can honestly say just about all of that checks out for me. Oh, and the fact that you can only have the level 6 rig after you beat the game just really blows my horn. It's the baddest of all the upgrades, and would definitely add to the character bulking aspect of the game, but they hold it out of reach until we beat the game, expecting us to go through another round for it. Not that I don't suggest playing a second time, but why, man? And on top of that, they don't even give you enough credits to buy it right away. I also feel that the ending of the game turned out a bit lackluster and sort of predictable, but I've seen worse, so there's that. So what do you think we're going to give this one? Well, being this game squeezed itself in between behemoth titles like Resident Evil, this one gets a 7 out of 10.